Hello, it's Jesse here, and we're back working on the Big Twin 80-inch flathead. This is a UH, like I've talked about in the previous videos, and I'm going to go into talking about what makes an 80-inch motor a UH, and all that stuff a little bit. I'm not going to go into big details, but we're going to get to the point on some things. This video segment here is now we're working on getting the tanks here to fit. We're going to work on installing the tanks, but we wanted to get the motor set, and then we're going to probably mock up the cylinders and then put the heads on, and then we'll be able to, just make sure that the bottom part of the tanks all sit good. Shimming or any of that kind of stuff we might have to do. We're going to do some little bit of some history on Big Twin Flatheads, and otherwise known as side valves. Anyway, for 1940, which this one is, was the first year of the ribbed gear cover here on the timing side. All bikes, all flatheads prior to this, the 37 through 39, Big Twin and WLs, they all were smooth right here. So it wasn't until 40 when this ribbed gear cover came out. And that was the same for the WLs as well, the smaller flatheads. Anyway, down here on the table here I got a book. It's an archive book, Harley Davidson archive book. It covers all bikes from 1903 to 1969. But in the back here is a segment for all the production numbers on bikes. So anyways, it's all listed in model order and the quantities of the production that they made and so on. So 1940, the UH, the Big Twin 80-inch flathead side valve, they made 187 of them. And in 1940, the EL knucklehead, they made 3,893. So I guess what I'm getting at is, according to numbers produced, Big Twin Flatheads, all the different models, there were a lot of different ones. We had like 6 different ones there. They had a lot lower production numbers on them than the knucklehead total. So, so if you were to, I know the knuckleheads bring more money and are more sought after. I get all that, but by the numbers produced, flatheads are considered more rare. Anyway, let's talk about something more interesting here. Over here I got a shop manual sitting here as well. There's an interesting chart right here on this one for this page here. Big Twin Flatheads. And this is a Big Twin manual anyway, so we're going to have the knucklehead involved here as well. But so 1940 for particular reasons. 1940 because that's what we're working on here. The 74-inch and the 80-inch flatheads were both available that year. Right here, 74-inch and 80-inch. And also in 1940, just the EL was made. They didn't come out with the FL until 41. But anyways, I guess I'm kind of going at here is the 74-inch flathead put out 8.77 horsepower according to this NACC rating, and the rating for grading or counting horsepower has probably changed over the years. I don't think they use this no more, but we're going to use this as an example because it's written here like this. But it's kind of all spelled out right here. So what I'm going to go into here is the 74 put out 8.77 horsepower, which was equivalent to the 61-inch EL model, 7 overhead valve knucklehead, so 8.77 horsepower as well. But the UL and the U seemed to have more power than the EL had because, of course, the stroke was different on the flatheads. They have more stroke, so you end up having more bottom end power, more takeoff power. So right out of the hole, it just take off better. And according to this, the 80-inch flathead, the Big Twin, like the one we're working on here, it had 9.44 horsepower because the bore was bigger, of course. But it was equivalent stroke as the flathead, which there's our difference there, 3.5 3.5 compared to 4 and 9/32 stroke. So with having 3 7/16 inch bore and the 4 and 9/32, that gave us our 80 inches, or our 78.75 to be exact. So then in 1941, things were about to change. 1941, the FL came around. So there was a bigger knucklehead available this time, so this year. So in 41, the 74-inch FL was introduced. And the FL, the 74-inch overhead valve, carried on all the way up to the shovelhead era, into the 70s. And they didn't bring another 80 out until the shovelhead era as well. That's a whole different ballgame, but we're not going to talk about that. I'm not here to do the whole history of Harley. I'm just going to get to the point on this. So in 1941, the FL came out, and it put out 9.44 horsepower, which was equivalent to the 80-inch Big Twin Flathead, 9.44 horsepower. But the UH and the ULH still seemed more powerful, and it was because of the stroke, of course. So we still had more bottom-end power, more takeoff from the get-go because of that stroke. So it was like a stroker motor. It just had that deep-down lurching power, you know, like not so much sustaining power like horsepower does, but the torque factor, which it doesn't go into detail on this chart talking about torques, otherwise you'd see that. It's kind of a hidden thing. It's not like it's hidden on purpose, it's just kind of like not there. So the Big Twin Flatheads would have, were really popular on pulling sidecars because of that extra weight and whatever. But anyway, so in the FL, how they got bigger was they went to 3 and 7/16 bore, which was equivalent to the 80-inch. So rings would interchange. That's one thing there, but of course we see the stroke difference. 3 and 31/32, compared to 4 and 9/32. So, but anyways, in 1942, for some reason, the company decided to stop production of the 80-inch Big Twin Flathead UH and ULH, but then the 74-inch flatheads, they carried on. The UL and U's, they carried on to 1948. So I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. So let's move on to working on getting these tanks to fit. All right, let's put the cylinder in here.
Wait a minute, let me have my hand back.
All right, now the rear one. Ready? There we are. So we're just doing this for mock-up. We didn't install the pistons, of course. You see that? All right, we'll put the heads on. All right, on for the heads now. All right. I'm not gonna worry about putting the gasket in, so. Let's see, this is this one.
Gotta have a head bolt hole.
Yeah.
You just turned 2 of them.
Yeah, we'll just put a couple in. I'm not ready to do motor stuff yet, quite. Alright, the rear head. When we get to doing the engine stuff down the road, we'll go into more detail on everything with the motor, but for right now we're focusing on the tanks. So here we go. Starting to look like a motorcycle. So here's the tank set we're going to go with. We're going to go with the V Twin tank set. I didn't have any decent tanks for this bike, so we had to use what we could find. This is a replica set. This is the 38-0136 40 through 46 style tanks, but actually these are typically 41 through 46 because they have this trim right here. We're going to have this trim removed because the 1940 didn't have this trim. This was later added in 1941. And I want this bike to look like a 40, so for that to happen, I gotta leave this trim piece off on the front and the rear on this tank, and then of course the other side as well. So we're gonna work on putting the hardware in here. Gotta put a stud in the back here. These tanks look pretty decent. And then I'm pretty sure the body guy can, when he goes to paint these, can clean up any minute flaws or whatever. But stud goes in the back here, and then bolts come in the front here. The other thing when working on tanks and stuff, we gotta make sure, especially these bikes. 1939 was the last year of the petcock. They went to a fuel shutoff rod in 1940, and that continued all the way to 65 or 66, I think. I'm not for sure on that, but the fuel shutoff rod continued throughout the entire life of the knuckleheads, panheads, up until almost shovelhead era. And the fuel shutoff rod goes through here, and we gotta make sure it's aligned well and adjust it if we have to. We have the correct tool to do that with. We'll be doing that coming up. Also want to make sure my shift gate will fit in here right. Don't want to, hopefully we won't have to modify that at all. I don't know how we're going to do that if that's wrong. so anyway, we'll be doing that. And anyway, let's go ahead and try to get these mocked up real quick here and see what we got to work with. Alright, go ahead. I'll put the nut on here. Of course, the lock washer and stuff goes on, but we're not going to do that right now. I'll back it out. You want to bring it back out a little bit here because the backbone is, there we go. Alright. And then top bolt here in the front. Bottom bolt in the back. I'll put this side up. There it goes.
Oh, looks a little long.
I have to check that with the dash, of course, when we put the dash on. So. Alright, so it's suggested to check the fuel shutoff areas here, and we're using the tool right now. As long as you can thread it in there and it goes in here, and there's a little bit of play, it's considered good. And then there's a spot down here you can get on with a wrench and stuff.
We got play in all directions.
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit. I
yeah.
mean, because it's almost the same size.
And we want this to be lined up because the
So
part
it's lined up.
the part that goes in here, the fuel shutoff, it has like seals on it. It needs to like be able to seal properly, and it won't ever seal properly if this isn't lined up. So this is a definite do on all old tanks and even new ones.
If it's off, you got to get under here and bend it.
Yeah, underneath here is a. You can bend it right
Bend
there.
this seat.
Yep. All right, so now we're gonna see if this fits. So before we put the tank shift gate on right here, we gotta make sure that I'm gonna test out and make sure the badges fit. Like I said before, this is a Big Twin set of tanks, and I'm not promoting this set of tanks, or not promoting it. I mean, it's pretty good so far, but we got a problem here with putting the badges on. They don't quite fit right. I'm not sure what's going on, but we're off a little bit, and we'll go over here in a minute and talk about it. But anyway, otherwise, so far everything else is going together all right with it. We got a set of Harley Davidson reproduction nameplates, and that's what we're going to try to use here. But when we go to put the badges on here, you're supposed to hook it on the one end. You hook it on the one end, and you're supposed to wrap it around, and then it's supposed to go on the other side of this one. And we're that far off. So we're gonna have to tinker with this for a while, or figure out what maybe a different set of badges. But we hook it in the front there, like I said, and we bring it back around here, and we gotta mold it or bend it to fit the tank. I get that, but it's kind of a pain in the butt because it doesn't really hook very well either. Maybe it's just the way these brackets were made. So anyway, kind of like that. So anyway, we're gonna tinker around with this a little bit more yet, and then we'll see what we can do. Well, we just got back from the Davenport swap meet, and I found some original tanks for this 40 UH, and I compared my tank badge to those brackets. And those brackets look a lot like this, but they're different. They're closer to the tank right here in the front, the original ones, and they're not as pronounced right here. What happens is the badge goes to grab and comes back, and then it gets held up by this high spot here. I tried 3 different badge brackets on 3 different sets of tanks. I would have just bought the tanks, but they wanted $3 grand for the set, and I think that's a little crazy. Maybe not, I don't know. But I guess I'm just gonna stick with these tanks. Kind of irritated because the unfortunate part is the fact that I'm going to have to remove these brackets. If these other brackets that I ordered are coming in that are narrow or different, I'm going to have to remove these brackets and have my friend weld them back on, or different ones back on. We're going to take this bracket. The procedure will be we want to have the right angle here, so we're going to leave these on for now. Use that as a reference to get this centered. And then we'll get that on there, and then we'll take these off. But that way we can have the 40 look. But anyway, kind of irritates me that I bought this nice tank that had these already on there, and we needed to mess with them ourselves anyway. So at this time, it's September 6th. 2022, and this tank set from Big Twin is actually unavailable. It's out of stock. But I'm not saying don't get it. I'm not saying get it. It's just that you're witnessing what we're having to go through to make this set work for my bike. So anyway, well, it's gonna be a little bit yet for the parts to come in, so we'll probably work on some other stuff around here. But we'll carry right on like we didn't miss a beat in this video when it all happens. So hang around here and get this fixed up. All right, so we've been working on this. We got the new brackets in, but since how we got replacement ones, we messed around with the ones that were on here. So just to try it out. So what we ended up doing was we bent this out to modify this one, and then back here we kicked this one in. Wasn't that what you were saying?
Yep.
And then
we curled because this was awful flat. We had to curl the top pretty good. You can see it, maybe. I don't know.
Because we had to do that anyway to get it to fit the tank.
We also had to manipulate the ends a little bit. They were tapered in on both of them, and there was a hump right here where this sits. So we kind of flattened that out and flattened it out here to make a long story short. So what happens now is this hooks back here just like it's supposed to. And it goes right on.
There it is.
And now it runs right along the tank, top and bottom. And Well, if we put a screw in it right now, it'd stay.
Yeah. And then, so we got to do the other side yet. So we'll do that. We'll work on that. But I just wanted to go over what we had to do to it. So this bracket wasn't quite right, but you know, we got it to work. So, yeah. And if we mess up the other side, well, I got to set up brackets to replace it. So anyway, we're going to go over there and work on that side now. All right, we just got done working on this bracket here, and we got the tank badge to fit. So let's go ahead and look at that. But just to prove we got it, you know. There it is. We run the screw in and it'll hold it. Of course, put the gasket in when it's painted. But next step on the tank badge section here is taking these brackets off for the trim pieces, because we want this to look like a 40 tank. So we'll work on that. But we gotta get we want to just double check that shift gate and make sure it works. So we're gonna go back over there and mess with that. Well, here we go. We got the cardboard piece behind here, like the manual shows and the parts book shows, and the Palmer book talks about. And then we also got the screw in here, so this fits.
Solid.
This gasket, like, it's made out of cardboard, and it creates it fills it in so this badge doesn't touch the tank. But it's kind of hokey looking, but that's how it was in this style badge. I don't know how well this would hold up if it got wet or gas spilled on it, you know, but this was how it was. This is how we're going to probably put it back together. All right, so we got the shifter handle and the gate installed, and we can go into each position and back to each position. So we're looking good here, as long as it doesn't get all tweaked out of position when we take it apart. But the tension, if you don't want it to be so sloppy, is all done with the bolt down here. There's a bushing and stuff inside the bottom of the tank, and there's a spring washer on the back of the bolt, and then that gives you your tension on it. So right now we got it at a nice spot so it ain't like floppy, and because we don't want this to fall out of position, because there's nothing but this gate holding it in these gears, because it's not a ratchet top transmission. This is just a jockey top transmission. Isn't that correct term? So, all right, I think we're good there. I think we can take all this nice pretty stuff off, including my sweet shifter handle off, and then we gotta go get these trim pieces removed. Then we'd be good for these tanks. Yeah. There we are. We're working on removing the strips right now. Really messing them up, but they're coming off. And we got the other side done already, but we just wiggle it until they pop off. They're just tacked on, of course. They're tacked on pretty good. But anyway, when these are all off, of course, we'll take it to the body shop guy, and he's gonna clean it all up and do a pressure test also when he gets to paint this, because you know that's one of the other things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to check for 3 to 5 or so pounds of air pressure. That way you're checking for leaks that way. So anyways, yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed everything on this. This is pretty much going to be the end of this video, because we got this stuff to fit, and we'll get all this sheet metal off and get it ready to get painted. So anyway, there's a little bit there, but the paint guy will, like I said, clean that up.
Sand it down smooth.
Well, before we called it quits on the tank, we decided to check the dash once here. So we put it all on there real quick and just made sure it fit, you know, because I didn't want to find out it didn't fit right for some dumb reason when after it was painted, you know. We can't really think of anything else we need to test fit, you know, but there's a little bit of a gap underneath here, like it says in the Palmer book, and this dash was not supposed to have a rubber seal thing that goes around it like a lot of people like to put on for some reason. It'd be incorrect if that was on, so I'm gonna leave it off. But anyways, this is pretty much the end of this tank segment. So anyway, hope you enjoyed everything. We'll see you again soon. So while we were at the swap meet in Davenport earlier this month, we came across a 1940 or something flathead, and we had noticed that there's something else we want to check before we take that front fender off. But we had noticed on that bike that they had smashed in the this exhaust pipe so that it would clear the fender. And we were like, oh my gosh, we better check that on my bike. But you know what? I don't know what the deal was with that bike, but there's plenty of room. so I'm glad to see this. Makes sense because it is inside the pieces here for the sidecar mounts. So you can see it here, straight across. So, and later down the road, we're gonna paint this, of course, high temp flat black paint. And this is held into place because there's no bolts and stuff up here holding it in, like on shovel heads and later. But what holds it still is there's a couple clamps, one that mounts to the frame and one that mounts to the pipe that comes out down here. And then the rest of the pipe and stuff all flows back. So anyway,